Let me state first how much I regret not to be present in person with you at the biomedical seminar in Boston. I had liked to be with you, to have a direct contact, but it was thought that I could do that over the television directly, and I'm happy to say a few words about the European Biomedical and Health Research Program. First, I say a word about the past, then the ongoing program, and thirdly, the most important part, the future. About the past. The thinking on biomedical research at European community level started in reality in the years 1972. And it took up to 1979, 7 years of discussion, to agree on only 3 concerted actions of 1 million AQ together over 3 years. This very modest political decision was a very difficult decision, because when the father of the program started to discuss it, they nearly agreed that there should be no medical research at European level, because they say there is the pharmaceutical industry, the doctors are rich anyway, and in reality they said Europe should concentrate on new energies, atomic energy, and so on. Someone raised the question, but how does it come that so many Nobel Prizes are going to the United States? And they agreed that Europe was lacking, in a way, a critical mass, as the NIH in Bethesda was able to mobilize. For this reason, they coined the term concerted actions. This means that the national governments or the private agencies continue to pay, but that the Europe or the European Commission bring these activities together at the European level, and that they agree on a common protocol, and that Europe only pay 6 items, 6 instruments of concertation. The first instrument of concertation is that the project leader, who is selected by the participating laboratories, has a central secretariat to build up the network and to manage it. Secondly, he can go to all the laboratories in his network at any time without any permission from the European community. Thirdly, he can organize meetings anywhere, any moment in Europe, of course within the limit of the budget. Fourthly, he can exchange staff between the collaborating centers. 5, he can exchange materials, for example, making new proteins and so on. He can exchange expensive animals, expensive materials, expensive instruments. And 6, he takes care of joint publications and newsletters. These instruments of concertation are difficult to be paid out from the national budget. And a recent report has pointed out that the total cost of a concerted action network is really paid by the member states, and that the cost that the European community is contributing is about 4 to 5%. So we are able to do these concerted actions to have a multiplier effect from 20 to 25 times. In the years 1980, when they started, many experts said it will never work. It's a stillbirth. We researchers, we need cash, we need money. These small amounts of money, and usually these amounts are at the moment about 250,000 AQ for a period of 3 years. So we can say 100,000 AQ a year, which is about $125,000 a year for the 6 instruments, as I explained. That will never work. That is not enough. But in reality, we can see from the statistics that you can find in this brochure, of which I'm happy to send enough copies for this seminar, we can see on the statistics in the insert that on the first page of the insert, there are 400 networks being developed in the present program, with a total of 6,600 legal entities participating in that program. That means, in reality, that these participants can be much more than one single team or one single person, and some of the concerted action networks sometimes mobilize what we call full-time equivalents, about 10 to 20 in one concerted action. You can also see in the next pages the titles of the different concerted actions, which are concerning pharmaceuticals, occupational medicine, biomedical technology, health services research. Then the major diseases: AIDS, cancer, cardiovascular disease, mental illness, brain research, the aging process, human genome analysis, and research on biomedical ethics. You will understand that I cannot cite all 400, but if I may give you a few examples just to highlight how it works. For example, in the development of a vaccine against AIDS, there was agreement that first an animal model should be developed. They agreed under the guidance, under the leadership of the Deutsches Primatenzentrum in Göttingen, that 9 primate centers in Europe should collaborate, that they should, when they have developed the CIF virus model in the macaques, that they will develop together a vaccine against the CIF virus, and that in that way they would come to bringing the forces together and not repeat unnecessary exploratory activities in the animals. At the same time, we were solving the ethical issue of non-abuse of animals. And they have made a common protein that was made by the private industry, tested in a British center, the National Institute for Biological Standards. This protein was sent to the 9 primate collaborating centers, who then used 100 macaques in one common experiment together to develop a trial of vaccine against the CIF virus in macaques. This highlights, in a way, at the same time, how this network, in reality, is doing much more than simple coordination. They have developed themselves, at the same time, a new protein, having it tested in a national laboratory, having, with small changes in the protocol, I mean here, they all use a small different adjuvant in the vaccine, having strengthened each other, so they reach what we call a community added value. The total is more than the simple arithmetic sum of the different parts. That is what we call subsidiarity principle. How can they reach an added value while using the national resources? Another example in AIDS, the European Community is supporting the Paris Center for the epidemiological monitoring of AIDS, where of course the data are epidemiologically collected all over in the European national centers, even in regional centers, or in the departments, or in the provinces, and so on. Every country has another system. They are grouped nationally and then brought to the Paris Center, that at the same time is recognized as a WHO collaborating center. You will understand that time does not permit to give me 5 or 10 other examples, but you can find these easily in this text, especially in the more, I would say, journalistic style text that is giving on the pages 368 to 374, 8 examples of such concerted actions where a community added value could be reached. In Europe, we have one big difference, in a way, compared to the United States. All the teams in the United States are in strong competition with each other. So there is a problem for them as they are claiming the same support at the same institute, mostly the National Institutes of Health, that there is a kind of basic distrust. In Europe, we have the advantage that they all are claiming their basic money from different national resources. So that we are able here to have an easier way to have collaboration between remote centers, between different nations, from different nationalities, than, I would say, two teams working in the same university but fighting for the same budget. This is a particular characteristic for Europe. There is a second one that I may mention, that within the European community one can travel the same day forth and back to their capitals. Instead of the States, from east to west you need 4 or 6 hours flight, which make a difference in distance and which make a difference with the States. About now the future program. The future program wants to go into new modalities of operation and into new fields. This in a way is summarized immediately, and you can find that in your text of this brochure, as you can see on page 378. The new items are, in particular, that there will be concerted actions in the field of pharmaceutical research, but at this moment strengthened by what we call shared cost activities. Shared cost activities means that the European community is paying up to 50% of the real cost of the research activity. As you will understand, that the next program is only having 336 million AQ for a time span 1998. You will understand that we will have to be very careful to pay research directly, even if it is only at 50%. So it will only be in these cases where there is a high likelihood of success, that the network is arriving at maturity of, let me say, a likelihood of really hitting a research target, that then our committees will select the shared cost process. Another field that will be new is the public health research. For the first time now, the Treaty of Maastricht on the European Union, Article 129, has allowed the community to go into research on public health. This is a new field for us, and it is in particular important one also for the United States, because it will include health services research. Health services research that will go into the matter to examine what is the value of new policy initiatives on the organization of the health systems. Europe, with its different health systems, different ways of channeling the national budgets towards the systems, is I would say, a laboratory in life, a real lively laboratory, where the different systems can be compared towards each other. A third research area that will be new in a way is brain research. The European community has been inspired by the American decade of brain research, and it is the intention in the biomedical research program that there will be a brain research program where we bring the best facilities of Europe on brain research together in a collaborative effort. A fourth new area will be human genome research, which is not totally new because we were totally involved in the human genome analysis, but now we want to make the jump to therapy, to somatic gene therapy. Last area, which is of general interest, is research on biomedical ethics. I don't need to make a picture, but Europe, going from, I would say, Finland up to Greece, has very different attitudes towards the different problems that the end of life, artificial procreation, transplantation and so on poses to the European citizen. You may ask, André Baart, that's all interesting, but how do we now get access to it? The access to the system happens, as you may see, by public calls. And in the brochure you can see on page 7 on the newsletter, you can see that there were calls for proposals in the past, as it will be in the next years, where there were each time about 700 proposals in the calls, which finally have led to 400 research contracts, consuming about 150 million EQ. So the success rate of the proposals was 24%, 1 in 4. This call of proposal will happen again, and it is in these networks that we will welcome very much the industry to take part. It happens already many times. I think here especially, for example, SmithKline in the vaccine trials is taking part. I mentioned here on the biomedical engineering, where we have the big firm Siemens and so on taking part. So it is thanks in these networks where we have the 6,400 teams that many times there are researchers from industry really taking part. We even have a network that the project leader is from the industry directly. So great care will be taken in the future that industry takes fully part in the different concerted action networks and takes part in the shared cost networks, also in the what we will call Euro facilities. Euro facilities are centralized services to the network to help them to come to the critical mass or to come to the necessary products, as I have shown in the AIDS vaccine development. Collaboration with USA is in this way a factual collaboration. It is not at this moment with the next program officially settled, but Professor Ruberti, the Commissioner, is at this moment in direct touch with the White House to make the formal agreements on collaboration between the US health research programs and the European life sciences research programs. One should be aware that the biomedical program is only one of the life sciences programs. The biomedical program, the next will be 336 million, but there is a more, there is a greater program on biotechnology of 556 million, which is approved. The details are in the next year, in the next months to be decided. And there is the agricultural and fisheries program of about 700 million EQ. These three together make the life sciences program of the European Community. It should be mentioned maybe that in another section of the framework program there is also science and technology for development, in which there is a small part on health research for the developing countries. We are very open here to have any collaboration being established, and it may be useful to mention already that there are agreements with Australia, with Canada, that in our program we have the participation of most countries from the Eastern and Central Europe, and that formerly already belong to the program: Norway, Sweden, Finland and Austria, the 4 countries we expect, or which are expected to become members of the European Union. Thank you so much.